Happy Thursday, guys. Welcome to Table Talk Thursdays. Today, I'm just going to be vlogging by myself. Next week, we will have a special video vlog from our previous stylist, Jessica, because we're airing a precious story on her friend, Mark. So stay tuned for that. Getting right into it, so I can try to keep it under 5 minutes today, we are talking about boundaries. Boundaries is one of my favorite things to talk about because a lot of people don't agree with boundaries, and a lot of people also don't understand how valuable and how important boundaries are in all types of relationships. Relationship with your pediatrician, relationship with your mother, relationship with your mother-in-law, relationship with your husband, relationship with your children, relationship with your friends, relationship with your boyfriend, whatever. Every relationship of some sort needs some kind of boundaries. So what does that mean? What does that look like? What does boundary mean? And literally a boundary is something that shows where an area ends and another begins. So when I am going on a bridge, that boundary is separating one part of land to another part of land. And literally when I step off of that highway and I'm onto the bridge, I've crossed that boundary. So why do we have boundaries in relationships? How do they help our relationships stay healthy? Simply put, boundaries in relationships help us keep ourselves in a healthy distance from another person. The boundary is what sets the place, again, between where you and the other person begin. So in a relationship, if you don't have healthy boundaries, especially in dating relationships and marriage, you oftentimes find people losing themselves. So I was in a domestic violence relationship. In the middle of that, there was no boundaries of self-respect. So what ended up happening is I ended up losing my identity. I ended up losing, okay, this is who I am outside of this person. Even in a healthy marriage, and anybody can chime in that's married. I'm not married now, but I have been married before. But even in a healthy marriage, you have to set boundaries to say, look, we are one and I love you, but I still have my own individual qualities. I still have my own female friends that I need to hang out with. That's a boundary. A boundary is saying, hey, I'm going to have guy time once a month. I'm going to have girl time once a month. And then the compromise is figuring out what works best for the family schedule. Depending on your upbringing, experiences, past relationships, setting boundaries may be easier or more difficult for you. I know for me, setting boundaries was very, very, very difficult up until my early 20s. It was then after I started joining life groups, after I started realizing how badly boundaries were affecting me, that I realized, okay, I need to start practicing healthy boundaries so that some of these issues that are going on in my relationships can cease. Boundaries are good. A lot of times when we go to set boundaries, and we say, okay, well, how is setting a boundary different than a challenge? That gets difficult. A lot of people say, oh, well, I'm just challenging you. I'm not putting you down. I'm just challenging your ideals, or I'm just challenging your opinions. And that's great. But challenging someone and belittling them as a person and as a whole is totally different. So the boundary in that case is, hey, you are disrespecting me as a person. You're not respecting my space. You're not respecting your words towards me. So the boundary is, I'm no longer going to allow you to speak to me that way. So let's talk about it. Make a quick list. Who do you feel that you need to set boundaries with in your life? So without details and just really simple, recently I was friends with someone and I said, okay, this is not working for me. I'm basically putting myself out there for someone who doesn't feel the same, who doesn't even really want the same level of friendship that I want. And so the boundary for me was, okay, I don't necessarily have to cut someone out completely from my life, but what I do have to do is say, I'm not engaging in certain things with you. I'm not going to hang out with you, or I'm not going to talk about certain subjects. So find out in your life, okay, what is going on and who in my life do I need to set boundaries with? So the first step in setting a boundary is being open and honest about something that is bothering you in a friendship or relationship. If your partner or your friend then does not make steps to improve it, a boundary is set. You can look at this in all types of ways. For example, workplace. Your boss is completely degrading. You go to your boss, you say, hey, you're really bothering me. You're putting me down all the time, even when I'm trying my hardest. And instead of giving me tips on how I can be better, you're just constantly saying, hey, you suck at this. The boundary could be, I need you to start telling me more. Or I'm going to have to go to the next level and go to HR and say, hey, I'm almost being attacked here as far as my job goes. Let's look at it from a female perspective in parenting. Jane, your friend, every time you're together, every time you have a playmate, criticizes the way that your child eats. And you don't believe in your children not finishing their food, that, Jane believes that your child should finish everything on your plate. And so you go to Jane and you say, hey, Jane, every time we hang out, you know, we have snacks or we have lunch, and you're always criticizing the way that I parent my child regarding food. Jane, you set the boundary. We're not going to talk about this anymore. You're criticizing me. Now you're putting me down. I've discussed it. Here we go. Jane continues to do that. So then you finally tell Jane, Jane, the boundary is if you talk about this again or belittle me in this area again, I'm going to have to end the play date. We're not going to be able to hang out anymore. Other examples are if it's a friend and they're always texting or calling you late at night and you work in the morning and you have to get up at 5 a.m., you can tell them, look, no more late night calls after 9 p.m. or you can just not answer the call at all. For guys, this is one of my favorite. Jason doesn't ever call you. He never offers to hang out. You always have to do the reaching. You always have to do the seeking. You always have to call and say, hey, Jason, what's going on? Go to him. Hey, Jason, I'm tired of being the one to always pursue you. I'm tired of being the one that always goes after you. If things don't improve, man, I can't keep doing this. It's draining. The second step in creating boundaries, if you're still with me, is getting solid or grounded. Oftentimes when you begin setting, you know, things happen, backlash happens, people aren't very happy with you. You know, a lot of times a lot of people will get angry. That is the exact reason you need to be grounded within yourself to say, I have self-respect. That guy's coming over and he's saying, you know, you're falling in love with him and he's screwing you every night in your bed and y'all are snuggling and you're talking about the future. And then one night he looks at you and says, oh, I was never interested in anything serious. I'm just here for a good lay. Not self-respecting. That is a boundary. I know that sounds crazy, but that's a boundary you need to set up. You know, that guy's belittling you. He's hitting you. Boundary set up. I'm done. You should just walk out on there. There's no boundaries. The boundary is you're out of my life. You cannot move forward with proper boundaries if you aren't solid within yourself. And once you know your boundaries, so again, this is just the basic of boundaries. We're going to get more into like different stuff that's really important. But right now, once you know your boundaries, be consistent. Keep them simple when you create them. You don't have to have this long list for Sally to say, I can't have you over at this time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, when you create them, keep them really simple. Stay calm and true when they're broken. And a lot of times when we're beginning to develop boundaries, we break them ourselves. We tell someone, hey, you can't come over after 10. The next thing you know, they're over after 10. You have to be responsible for your own actions when they're broken as well and how you respond when someone breaks them. Don't bend from your beliefs. But if there is a way that you can compromise and be flexible, do it. You know, if they say, hey, I understand not coming over after 10 on the weekdays, but I really want to hang out with you, Meg, on Friday. And I want to watch a late night movie. I don't get off till 9. Be flexible, you know. Ultimately, boundaries keep us healthy. Woo! Keep us healthy. They keep us from obsessing over things we probably ought not to be obsessing over, i.e. our body, eating too many sweets, boys, girls, things like that. They keep our relationships healthier, even if it doesn't seem like it. So that's it for the basic boundaries tonight. Hit us up on the web if you have a question, www.numberx.org. We're going to be wrapping next week. We're going to be beginning a story about Mark, a wonderful young man who passed tragically. So please stop back on in and check us out. If you want to email us at info.numberx@gmail.com. And as always, don't forget, we love you Xers and we're excited to see where it goes. Have a great night, guys.